welcome to the Success Blueprint with Grider and Peterson. We have today two awesome agents that I respect greatly. They're doing great things not only in real estate, but also in investing and so forth. So Carlos Via-Gómez and Brad Camphouse. We appreciate you guys being here with us and being on the podcast with us.
Thanks for having us.
So first of all, why don't each of you just give us just a slight background on yourselves? You can go back as far as you want to go. Don't take the whole hour or whatever, but just give us a little background on yourself as we go forward so people know who you are.
Can we go first?
You go first.
Back in 1981, in Rexburg, there was this couple. No.
Yeah. So, when my mom met my dad.
Yeah. I'm from Rexburg originally, graduated Madison High School, kind of went all over the place doing construction, and in 2016 got my real estate license and started to flip houses, and now I'm into a lot of development stuff and go by the Bearded Realtor.
Awesome.
That's nice and short and sweet. I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah.
I got to go back to 1981 on a day like today. No.
Today, oh yeah, happy birthday. I forgot. Yeah.
That's right. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Had to bring that up. No. So I started in real estate back in 2004 in Florida after working in hospitality for quite a bit. And I stopped in 2010 when the market crashed in 2008. We had to pivot. Went into retail for a while and then moved to Idaho 2010 and had a retail business for a while. And I figured by 2017 I wanted to get back into real estate, which is what I love. And since then I've been working as an agent. Now I have a team of agents that I work with. Work really good. And I also do some flips and some rentals and some Airbnb, some short-term rentals as well.
Awesome. So what right now excites you guys? Like, what do you get up in the morning and what gets you going as far as business goes?
For me, it's new businesses. So I'm kind of expanding into, I just bought Duck Donuts and we're looking at another business currently that I have a letter of intent in on for the 23rd of this month.
Great.
And so I know I just took over Duck like not even a month ago, and now we're going to dive into another one, and we've got a bunch of new developments. So I think the thing that really gets me out of bed and want to work is those new deals and learning the newness of business and learning how to get through different, I don't know, problems that I've never even dealt with before. Even though I was part of Pick Me Up when it kind of started, and bought into the franchise of that and was running it, but it was a very short-lived, and so I didn't get into the Department of Labor and figuring out taxes and things like that from that true business standpoint. Didn't really deal with the employees for very long. Where now we have 18 employees over here and. That's, I mean, just that, and then that's just a totally different dynamic than having other agents that we use that are, have their own 1099 type thing, right? That's their business. They have to grow it, even though we're a team and we're trying to work together. Nice. They have to go and do it. But an employee is just relying on you fully for tell me what to do and then pay me. Right? And so figuring that out has really been driving me. Last 6 months or so.
Brad, so with the Duck Donuts, so you buy a business that you come in to increase or make better or whatever the history was, but you come in to drive it up and to make a successful business out of it. What is maybe some of the weak spots that you see coming into a business that you need to fix, or what do you think is like maybe some of the most important things or, core things that you look for or that you try to fix?
That's a great question. And I love it because it translates between businesses. And Carlos and I were at the same brokerage for a while, and we were taught abundance over scarcity. Right? So this abundance over scarcity mindset that you figure out how to make something work versus finding an excuse as to why to not do it. And so when I bring that abundance mindset into a business like Duck Donuts, where they were philandering and they're like, well, making excuses to, why we can't do it, why it's not working out. And I don't even want to look at that. I don't want to talk about it. and the failures portion of that, I literally just try and skim over the top of it and say, how do we make that work versus how do we deal with the problem, right? Like, I don't want to deal with the failure portion of it. Let's just brainstorm on what will make that better. And 9 times out of 10, I feel like that's an abundance mindset as far as let me back up. When I got there, they were not giving away anything, right? And I think you have to give value to get value. And so I went in and started giving away donuts. Like dozen here. Title companies, banks, y'all come
Thank
in.
you.
And
You bought some for us.
Right, exactly. So that's the point, right? Like I started doing that, but next thing you know, 3, 4, 5 days later, they come back.
Yeah.
We all have benefited from that, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
But so, and it's changing those systems and changing that mindset to, we're not just here to make money. We're here to make relationships, and we're here to make things better for not only our business, but for the community. And when you do that, it doesn't matter if it's donuts. It doesn't matter if it's soda, like pick me up. It doesn't matter if it's real estate.
Right.
I mean, it literally translates to any business out there. So that's what really is awesome about being able to come into a business that's struggling.
So do you find that, first of all, did you keep, or a lot of the employees stayed
Nope.
or none of them?
No, well, so 3 of them. 3 of them, and
okay.
I actually just replaced one of the last of those 3. So
Oh, wow.
now we have 2. And I have
Okay.
18 employees that we have now
Okay.
rehired over the last 6 weeks.
So that culture is different then.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have to pinpoint that, and I tell my kids this all the time: the trash will take itself out, right? If the culture is bad,
Yeah.
and you go in and put pressure on that, they don't want to be a part of it anymore, and so they'll leave.
You take them out of their element. You just kind of put them in a place where they're not comfortable anymore. Kind of.
And I don't like to be comfortable. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be in there and grow, and so I'm standing there for 16 hours a day with all of them, and they're like, "Wow, this guy." And that's another difference, right? The old owner couldn't do that. He had a 9-to-5 job that he had to work somewhere else. And so he couldn't sit there and be with them and clean the floors, right? Like make the donuts. I was there doing all of those things. So now instead of, and it's that age old, being a leader with them versus their boss.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm your boss, but I'm also right here with you, sweeping floors, wiping counters, making donuts, taking orders. Everything that you will do, I will also do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Carlos, so when you got out of the real estate business and you went into retail, it was furniture, correct?
It was furniture, yeah.
And so what is some of the things that I guess that you've learned out of that, and how does that relate to your real estate business, and how do you go from real estate to furniture back to real estate? I mean, what's some of the similarities maybe that you found? And I mean, it seems so different, but as we know, everything's kind of real similar. So,
Yeah, and I'll take a step back. We talk furniture, but I'll just go back to hospitality first, because I think that was the first thing that made a difference. I worked in places where their thing was all about anticipating the guest needs. And I still live by that with Airbnbs and things like that, but I apply that to real estate. So it's be ahead of what people want. Try to anticipate what they want. Always listen to them, of course, but if you can surprise something with something that most likely they're going to want, you want to have it ready for them, right? And so with the retail, retail is tough. I'm not going to be around the bush on that. It's just, retail is a tough business because, you got a lot of returns. You're also carrying your own inventory, which is different than real estate, right? You're selling other people's stuff. Unless you're flipping a home, then you're carrying your inventory there. But as far as, same thing, customer service, making sure that the final experience, when it's all said and done, they want to be happy with it. And letting the client know when the whole thing is done, they can still come back to you. So with retail, with furniture breaks. There's always warranty issues. I mean, you deliver a sofa, it shows up and it's broken, and you still have to make it right, even if you're going to have to eat the cost of it.
Sure.
At the end of the day, yes, you're there to make money, but if you can't make your consumer or your client happy, you're not going to do it. The one thing that I learned the most coming from Florida to here to Idaho on the furniture business, because I learned that furniture business from a friend who had a similar business in Florida, and I came over here. This is a small town. And so if you do something wrong, it spreads really, really fast.
Right.
And in a big city, it's like water flowing under the river. People come through no matter what. And so if you make a mistake, then you can make it up on the next one.
Right.
In a place like this, you really have to step up to your game and just really deliver and make sure that everybody's happy. And just, I mean, it's cliche, but you want to treat people the way you want to be treated or even better. And so that's why I kind of use from furniture and retail coming to real estate. Just make sure that we deliver and make sure that our clients know that even after the transaction's done and everything's done, that they can reach out to us for anything, really. I mean, it doesn't matter if they want to know where's a good place to eat in town, or if they need a contractor to fix something,
right.
or, you know, what doctor do I take my kids to, because they kind of trust you at that point and they rely on you. Right. And so, yeah, that's one of the things that I like to use.
All right. So, Brad, you've been in real estate now then a decade.
Yep.
And Carlos in and out over 2 decades.
Yeah, I'm old.
So let's talk about some of that. We've also had some changes. Today's January 8th, depending on when this thing, airs. The change of Trump stopping corporations on buying homes, wanting to put that into effect. I mean, whether he has or hasn't, or the idea of it. But maybe let's talk about some of the changes. So the one change, I guess, in 2008, I guess, got you out of the business for a little bit. And what is something that, like in this market shift, or things that you've maybe learned that you're able to stay into it, or you know what I mean, kind of go through some of these pits, these peaks and valleys, I guess, that the last 5 years has thrown at us. So maybe take us through some of that. So what got you out? What have you learned, and what have you implemented since then?
So what I always try to do is, when change like that happens, unexpected change, it's pivot. Just find a way to make it work. And so in 2008 or 7, whatever it was, when the market crashed in Florida, I was doing mostly flips. I had my real estate license. I wasn't helping a lot of clients buy and sell, a few here and there. But the whole purpose of my license back then was just to find flips and be able to sell the flips that we were doing. And we were starting to build a portfolio of properties. And I had a business partner at the time. I pivoted. There was nothing to flip. There was nothing was selling. But guess what? There was a lot of banks that needed the properties taken care of. So we started a junk removal company. I sold a bunch of stuff, bought a bunch of dump trailers, and started a company called Junk Dudes. It was 1-800 Junk Dudes. And we literally would go and clean foreclosures. I mean, You've seen foreclosures, how they leave it. I mean, we'll find toilets filled up with concrete. Cars that we had to take to the junkyard and things like that. And then after that, they needed somebody to maintain the property. Well, then we just went and bought some lawnmowers. It's Florida. You got to mow your lawn every week religiously. Otherwise, it's a jungle. So we did that. The reason we stopped doing it is because my wife at the time and I needed a change. We started thinking about having a family, and we knew that we didn't want to stay in Florida. So we decided to come over here. And at the time, I don't think, based on what I looked at, I wasn't confident enough to bring the junk removal business over here.
Right.
From my research and everything, at that time, people wouldn't pay me for that. Everybody will probably just use their trailer and things like that. And we charge quite a bit in Florida to do that. And the crazy thing is also that we cleaned out a lot of these homes, and we charged to get rid of the stuff. But then we save all the good stuff. And then we would do garage sales or sell them on, back then, Craigslist, because there was no marketplace.
Right.
And so then you'll just double dip, so to speak,
Sure.
or just make profit on somebody else's trash with somebody else's treasure, so to speak, right?
Right.
And so that's what I did. But then when we came up here, it was like, okay, what am I going to do in Idaho? It was a new state for me, and furniture kind of fell in my lap. I had a friend who had the business, and I asked him if he could teach me, and he said, well, if you stay here for 6 months, I'll teach you everything that I know, then you can go and start doing it over there. And so that's one of the ways. Now the way that the market has, I guess, shifted since the whole COVID thing. Honestly, I don't think I've changed much when it comes to that. It's just keep striving to just take care of people, right? The approach is different though, right? I mean, buyers definitely have more options nowadays, which is good. It's really good. But working with sellers is a little bit different, and it's having that conversation that you gotta price it right. I think that's, I will still hammer that every day. Just like, it's obviously the condition, how you market it and everything. I don't care how good the house is, how well you market it, how great the pictures are. If you price the house wrong, it's not going to go anywhere. It has to be a good value for people to go for it.
We were running stats the other day, and I can't remember the exact number, but essentially it was over the last 3 months, our MLS, there's been just over 900 sales and in the MLS, residential sales in the MLS. And there was, and in that same time period, there was just over 700 withdrawn or expired.
Wow.
Crazy, right? And that goes to your point. I think so many agents are afraid to tell people what their home will really sell for. They just, well, we really need this. And like, okay, let's try it. And then it sits forever and it doesn't sell, right? And so I think we see that a lot right now, just with that little bit down market. And people just need to be upfront and honest with people. And it's really hard to, especially if they're competing and you have two or three agents saying, hey, your house is going to be $600,000. And you're the one saying, it's really $525,000, $530,000. And they're looking at you like you're dumb, right? But then they're not selling, and then they're canceling or coming off the market, which is kind of crazy.
Well, and some of the news that people get is false news, but then some of the news or the information as far as the price of their home and things like that, we always want to, I mean, even myself, want to gravitate to what's going to be the best for us, right? So if I can get more, and if somebody's like, oh, you're doing that, well, I can get you more, or I can get you better. And so we always want to open up to that. And sometimes it's hard to just say, we talked about it, a couple of days ago, is like what's factual and what's real and what makes sense and what's backed and all of those things with the numbers is, the truth. Sometimes you have to look at that and say, that's what's going to be the best versus if I hope for this, my house is going to sit on the market longer, which then I'm going to have to reduce it, or, it's not going to sell at all, which then, screws up other plans, which maybe takes away other opportunities, like whatever it may be. And so I think it is hard to give that message of truth that like, this is what it is. Like my goal is to get you the most amount of, we can for your house. Well, this is what it is. Yeah. And being a flipper and being a developer, I mean, you know that more than anybody. You're not just selling one transaction, you're selling multiple. But I mean, you're not going to go into a flip and say, I can sell this for $380 when it's worth $350. Yeah. Right? And you're not going to go in and say, I can sell these townhomes for $400 when they're worth, $340.
Right. I've actually started to explain to even other developers, my investor pool, everybody, because then they will come to me and say, well, why isn't this selling, right? It starts to land on me as the agent that's trying to sell those townhomes. So we did everything on the front end and we built it and now it's not selling, and why?
Sure.
And so I started to like draw out a pie chart for people and say, okay, this 100% of the pie is what it takes to sell any given property. And I almost every time get down to it, and it goes back to the 80-20 rules. So 80% of what dictates is going to sell that piece of property is the market. Right. It's not me. It's not Morgan. It's not anybody, right? And that takes away from the agent, but the agent is still important, 20% of it.
Right.
And that 20% can make or break the sale. However, the other 80% is the market, and the market dictates the price, not me. And so now I say, look, these are the comps. These are the comps from 2 years ago, and we run these market stats. And this is where I project it to be going and why I project it to be going, and then try and explain to them, this is the Fed. This is what Trump is doing in the world, whether he's going and taking other people's presidents or whether he's whatever, that affects in a roundabout way what we're doing.
Right.
And so, and that is the quote unquote market that is 80% of the reason that we have to select a certain price for somebody. And I don't think a lot of people think of it that way. They just think of it, well, why aren't you doing your job to sell that? Well, because I'm not 100% of that pie.
Yeah.
I'm only 20% of that. And I might only be like 5% of it. I'm just kind of steering it when I'm doing pictures, or I'm doing open houses, or I'm doing, a trunk or treat to try, or we're doing podcasts, to lift each other up and to be top of mind with these buyers and get them to come in. But the end all be all is that if that buyer doesn't have the capital or the money to purchase that and to not be house poor, like I don't want to get somebody into a house that then they're going to be upset with me later because I helped them and I did exactly what they wanted me to do, but now they're miserable because they're stuck in this big house that they can't afford.
When you talk about price, people ask me about that, and I'm like, look, I can sell value. I can explain to you why something's better. However, I can't make it better than what it really actually is. And what I mean by that is, and when they want more, I can't explain that, I can't sell you why a home 50 grand, if your house is listed for 50 grand more than your neighbors, of why it's 50 grand better, and then the market dictates that, like to what you're saying. To market the property is the same thing. I mean, we've had a training back in the day, and it was like, whatever gallon, milk is, say it's $3.50. I could have the best, milk ever. And if I said it was $9, like no matter the marketing or the branding or whatever it would be, you're still not going to get very far trying to market and sell that. And so, I mean, a lot of things are what they are. And 20%, I see with what you're saying too, is, I mean, a lot of it is it's the price, location, condition, and the agent's job is to package all of that and make it true and, wrap it and put a bow on it and make it so it's appealing and it makes sense out there.
Yeah.
If I can add to that, you're talking about the price and the value. I think it's about perceived value. So the hard thing, I think, to us as agents is to convey to our clients or sellers, the people that want to list a house, okay, yeah, these are the comps. This is what the houses are sell for. But okay, let's look at your house versus your competition right now. So before we list it, let's see who is your competition. What are the other 4-bedroom, 5-bathroom, 3-car garages just like yours in the county and what they're asking. And then you're going to narrow down what do they offer that you don't, and what do you offer that they don't have. And so let's put ourselves in the shoes of your prospective buyers. Let's pretend you're buying this house now. And if you're going to go look at 10 houses now, because there's more inventory, right? Or 20 houses, whatever it is, what draws you to that one house? Yes, it may be the location, but at the end of the day is what do I get for the money, right?
Yep.
You just sold your personal residence not too long ago. I did with mine. It's a lot easier for us to have that conversation with ourselves and say, I know your house sold probably week or 2 weeks under contract?
5 days.
5 days.
Yeah.
So did mine. And it's terrible to say that, but the reason is we know, we priced it. No, we knew that like in a market like that. Well, and that's exactly what someone, you priced it too low. And it's like, no, that's what you want it. We got a full price offer, no concessions on ours.
Yeah.
It went super fast. Yes, it is a great location. Yes, we did a ton of work with the house. But then again, based on all those things, we could have gotten a little bit greedier and priced it a lot higher. But then what? Then we wasted time, and then we'll probably ended up at that point. We wanted to make a move, and we were ready for the next page, so we set it up at the right price. It's harder to do that when you're talking with somebody else because there's those emotions, and they take it, you're there just to present the data and everything. You're trying not to be emotional about it. And so that's normally how I approach it. But a lot of times it gets tricky. I honestly, I have 2 listings right now that are sitting there, and we had that conversation. And of course, we listed it for higher than what I suggested. And we've done a couple one price reduction on each one of them. And I'm still going, we haven't got to the point where I said that we should have listed. And by the time we get there, it might be too late. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, the market will determine it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
When
tricky.
is it funny how when they sit like that, they kind of get the
Stale.
stink. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so, and people will look at that and say, well, this has been on the market for 90 days. Why?
Perception.
You know, what happened to this house that it's been sitting for this long? You know, oh, it went under contract once, but then fell out of contract. Does that mean that an inspection went bad and there's something wrong with the house?
Well, then it goes back to value versus perception of value.
Right.
You talked about furniture. I'll just bring this up really quick. One of the reasons when we started the furniture, it was, and what I learned from my friend, he didn't have a retail location, and we didn't start at a retail location. We started at a warehouse. Why? Because my overhead was cheaper. Therefore, I can cut my margins and give you a better deal in furniture. But then it's just not that. When you walk into a warehouse outlet, your perception already is that it's going to be cheaper than if you walk into a fancy store. So it's about perception, how you present it. So then again,
You feel like you're going to get a deal.
yeah. And so without giving the house away, without pricing it the wrong way, you just got to price it right. So you're a better deal than everybody else that you're competing with. Of course, as long as the numbers work with you. If you need to get a certain amount because you have a mortgage for a certain amount, then it gets tricky. And that's a tough situation. I mean, it's different,
Yeah.
but I feel like you have to be very competitive in this market. You can't just put it out there and hope that it goes just because you think it's worth it, you know?
So what do you say to those people that have met with professionals? They say they met with maybe 2 or 3 agents, and a couple of the agents are telling them it's worth more. And you're seeing the data and you're like, we're looking at the same data as they are. I don't know where they're coming up with that number necessarily. How does that, I mean, because that conversation can be difficult, right? Because, and in their position, they're like, well, I've talked to a couple of you, and one of you's here and one of you here, and both of you have been in the business a while, both of you have experience. How does that pan out? You know, that's, what do you say to those clients?
I'm pretty blunt about it, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'll be like, listen, this is my opinion. Valuations are opinions of value, or CMAs are opinion of value at the end of the day, right? This is my opinion. They may have a different opinion. The reality is different agents approach different things. You're hiring me to sell your house. If you want me to sell it, I think we need to be at this price. I could go at the price that the other agent told you. But the reality is at that point, I'm just taking the listing, hoping that we get down to this point and get it there. So,
And I'll say something like, a house is worth whatever someone's willing to pay.
Yeah.
Because what if the guy has cash and they'll pay exactly what you want because they love the house, right? There's no banks, there's no anything. We can close on this in 10 days. Here you go. So in that scenario, the house is worth what that guy's willing to pay. But if we're like fishing in a bigger pond where we have to find a specific buyer, the bank is only going to loan X amount of dollars on this based on comparables. Right. So now we want to run our data based on these same comparables, and the house is worth whatever someone's willing to pay. Well, the bank will now dictate what that person is able to pay or is willing to pay, right? Because if it comes in at a lower appraisal and we have to now renegotiate some things, well, that's because we tried to do that at the beginning, which is what a CMA is, right? We're trying to figure out what that appraiser is going to do before he does it. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. And so, I mean, there's people that come in with cash and they say, yeah, we're going to pay full price and we'll close. And then now that made a comparable for somebody else. Yeah. Right. And,
or they come in with cash and they say, hey, we can close next week, and there's way under.
Yeah, or it's way under, right? Yeah. And that's also makes a comparable in the opposite direction.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you explain all of that to people and walk through that? And that's what my verbiage is every time when they start to say, well, I talked to my neighbor down the street. They sold their house 6 months ago, or in 2022 in 2 days for $100,000 over what they were asking for. Well, that's a different time, right?
Yeah,
like
different market.
Yeah, it's a totally different situation. And then on top of that, they said, well, how is the market? Which market? Right? Because now you've got cheaper houses up to $300,000 or something, and then 300 to 600 and 600 to 800 and 800 million. Like those are all totally different.
Or you have a buyer's market and a seller's market.
Right.
So if you're buying or if you're selling.
So there's a lot of moving parts in there that the average person doesn't even look at. And I was trying to explain this to my brother-in-law, Jesse, who just got his real estate license in Boise, because I was like, you should totally do it. I think it's a great profession. I think you do fine at it. And then he comes to me even this morning and says, do you do like a pre-listing packet for people? Do you? And I said, well, yeah, why would you not? That you become professional, you're giving them information, and that gives you an opportunity to walk them through the entire process from before you list it, what the paperwork's going to look like, what the inspection's going to look like, what the appraisal's going to look like, what the closing's going to look like. Is closing, and this, I love using this example because people think they go to a closing table and that's it.
Yeah.
We've all probably seen deals fall apart after signatures even, right? Like the money didn't work, and I had one the other day that ICCU's money didn't transfer for whatever reason, and then it kicked it back 2 days. In that 2-day time frame, somebody bought a car. It fell apart after signatures.
We've all heard stories like that.
It makes your heart hurt for the people, but it's like, I told you, don't buy anything until you have the keys in your hand, and now you're like
we signed, we can go buy it now.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. And it wasn't their fault. It wasn't necessarily ICCU's fault. It was a glitch in the system where the wire transfer didn't work that day. And so then the next day, money changed.
Man.
And so they had to like relook at it. And they're like, well, but what's this? Why all of a sudden is there a new...
Because they thought they were closed.
They thought they were done.
Yeah. Wow.
Because you probably had that conversation. Wait until you close to do this, right? But then
and it wasn't my buyer. I was representing the seller side.
Okay.
And so, but that's what happened. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
No.
How do I explain that to that other agent? Like, why didn't you have that conversation? Or maybe you did and I just don't know. But oof. Like,
sometimes I've even gone down the road of doing the numbers. Like, when there was someone that said, hey, my neighbor sold for X, like $50,000 more than what you're saying my house is worth right now. And it's basically the same house. And we actually ran numbers. And it's like, well, they bought this then when interest rates were at this, and their payment was this, and they're buying it $50,000 less, but their payment is actually even more now than what your neighbor's payment is. And so, and that's what a lot of people look at, especially in specific price ranges. It's all about that payment.
How does it fit into your budget every month?
Exactly.
That's how most people work.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the biggest, right? Is the price is kind of secondary on what the payment is.
I think it's all about that's how they pre-qualify them, right? It's because a lot of times people get pre-qualified for $500,000, but they go like, well, no, I only want to spend X amount of dollars every month. And so then you pivot or refocus and go, well, we're going to do $400,000 homes because then the payment's going to be where you want to be. You want to be at this payment. This is where we need to be at. And then for every $1,000 that, $10,000 you go up, it's going to change X amount of dollars. But then again, it just goes down to that price thing. Let's work it through the flip angle, right? We put a lot of money into the flips. We make them really nice. I want to make sure that we put a good product out there. And then again, I could get greedy and I say, yeah, my house is better than all these other houses, right? And so like we had one in Bel Air that we just sold, and it sold something pretty fast, full price, no concessions. And it was because we priced it right. And there was identical flips from somebody else that were listed already a month and a half, 2 months before ours hit the market. We made purposely ours slightly nicer, price it just above theirs because they had some nicer features, but it went fast. And the other one's still in the market. And so it's like, you price it right. You got to price it right accordingly compared to what everybody else is selling. It's just, you got to sell value. It's people see that they can get and without giving it away, without leaving, money on the table. It's a very fine line that you're going through, but in a market like right now, you have to be competitive. Otherwise people are looking to get a value.
So when you say the market right now, and we talked about payment, so that takes me back to affordability, right? Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of conversation of just affordability. How are people getting into homes? How are people supposed to be able to get into homes if they can't afford them? What are you both seeing? And Jason and we talk about this every day. all day, every day. What are you both hearing and seeing, and what advice are you giving as far as affordability and being able to afford a home?
The numbers have to work for you. It's like, don't overstretch yourself. Don't become house poor. That's like the first thing that I talk to first-time home buyers. It's got to be within your means. Remember, this is your first home.
It doesn't have to be
This is a stepping
forever
stone
home.
to work your way up. And conveying that message, I think, it's very important. It's a tough market for anybody trying to buy a house, honestly, whether you're doing a transition or whether you're a first-time home buyer, because it's just not easy. I mean, interest rates are not, I wouldn't, they're not as bad as people think they are. I think they're historically where most of the time they have been. Could they be a little bit lower? It would be nice. But I'm concerned that if we drop too much, guess what's going to happen? It'll take off again, and that'll make it even more unaffordable.
Well, and that's what we kind of talk about is the rates are the rates. The rates are where they're at. And if you're waiting for the rates to come down, the price is going to go up. So you can't control the rate, right? You can't control the price really either. But when you buy for the price that you can afford now, then the cream or the gravy on top is you're able to refinance at a lower rate and get a better payment down the road. Otherwise, homes are going to, statistically and historically have just kept creeping up year after year after year with appreciation.
Well, if somebody's thinking of buying a home, I said, very honestly, I'm like, you plan to be there at least 3 years. If you're not going to be there for 3 years, I just wouldn't do it, honestly, because we don't have control of what the market is doing. Could any given government entity or the president or anybody do something where makes it spike and then it changes? Yes, but none of us know at the end of the day. So based on today's market and what the market's doing right now, I would say unless you're going to stay there for 3 years, then probably best not to. Then go rent, because I can't control that. And if you want me to give you some advice so that you can, when you turn around and you have your exit strategy, you're going to sell it or rent it, whatever you do, make sure that you have enough time to build that equity in there in time. I mean, just being honest about it.
Well, and real estate is a long-term game, right? Like you can't think that every year is going to be like 2021 and 2022. That's a 30 to 50% increase, which is historically not accurate, right? If we just look at the history of it, it's 7 to 9% over time that it's gone up from clear back from like the 1920s to today, even through the 1980s when interest rates were 20%, and then through 2008, and then through COVID. And like historically, if you drew a line from the like 1920 to 2020, that's like 7 to 9% increase. So I would say that's a pretty standardized thing that you can look at and say, I think it's going to go up that much, but what if this year is a dip? So we have to play the long term with real estate, because real estate is a long-term investment. That's why mortgages are 30 years. Some are now 40 years, right? Because it's a long-term game, and people just don't look at it in that fashion. Even with investing on the investment side, they want the cash flow right now. I want this cash flow. I need it to make me $1,000 a month, because that's what I need to survive, because I want to quit my job or I want to do whatever, right? And that's not, most of the time, not realistic. However, and I liked your post the other day when you were saying like there's reasons to buy houses outside of, or in the investment side of things, outside of like a passive. I can't even remember, what was it that you wrote exactly?
It's about that you can finance and that you can put a minimal percent down, but you're making the appreciation on the full value.
Right.
So if you put $100,000 down, or if you're putting, whatever it is, then that year you're making a percentage
of
in appreciation back, and it's a
over
large
the
percentage.
overall price, right? So if it's $100,000 home, and that's just easy math because there's no such thing anymore, it seems like, right? So, but easy math, 7% at $100,000, you're making $7,000. Well, you only had to put 3 to 5% of that down.
Right.
So now you put $3,000 down, it went up $7,000, so you made $4,000 that year.
Right.
Easy math wise, right? So, and of course, those numbers jump all over the place.
But you can just multiply that by 3 or 4 or 5, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 home.
But most people don't look at the other ways that you make money on a purchase of that, right? Especially with a rental or an investment property, because you've got if you've got a renter in there, he's paying down your loan for you through the amortization of that loan. You're making that money.
Right.
The tax benefits that you get over time.
And that's
With the
what I was going to
depreciation,
add is the tax benefits, right? So you get appreciation and tax benefits alone that are easy to pencil out and easy to show of what you can save, right? And there's so many new things that you can do. I mean, you need to. My advice is to talk to a CPA and get the exact facts. But I mean, you can write off. There's offices, the home gym thing now is a real thing. Like there's so many things that you can write off now that just make it, I guess, it makes it make more sense to own a home than to not, if you can, if and to not stretch yourself and to make it so that I go back and forth and there's like. We've heard, I can't remember his name, but the guy that says that, buying a home, nobody should own a home, that it's a liability and not an asset. And I agree to a point, but we have to have some liabilities in our lives to make things work, and some are better than others, right? So a vehicle, we all need a vehicle. Now, you don't have to go get the Mercedes and you don't have to go get the Range, but you need a vehicle that's going to get you around from point A to point B. You need that. That's a necessity. That's also a liability. And your home, you shouldn't be overstretched, and that is it's a liability beyond of what it is a necessity. Mm-hmm. I think when you buy more than what you need, then that becomes the bigger liability.
100%.
But again, you have the tax benefits and you have the appreciation, which then I would argue, like, are you going to rent and get nothing? And it's Dave Ramsey that's like, you need to buy because that's going to be your biggest payment each month. And then you have somewhat control over what that payment's going to be, of your finances. So anyway, that's my little rabbit hole. Hey, everybody. Thank you for always tuning in to the Success Blueprint. I love having these conversations with our amazing friend, Brad and Carlos. As you can understand, these never go short. So we have to split this into 2. So please follow us next week for the next episode, and we will cut to part 2. Thank you.